Well, hello everybody. I hope you're doing great, and I hope you're having a great time and getting ready for a great Christmas. I love you very much. This is Papa, and I want to say a special hi to Lily and Levi and Parker and Gemma and Lucy. We had a story about Lucy last time. So Lucy. And then we also have the Johnstons, and they're in Puerto Rico. And Isaac and Elise and Caleb and Laura and Janae. I hope you guys are all doing really good and really looking forward to a fun Christmas. You can see we've got our Christmas tree here. And if you look on top of the speakers over there, do you see that's part of what we're going to be talking about today? The book I have is called The Christmas Story. And I know you've heard it before, but it's the real reason we have Christmas. I know we talk about different presents and stuff, but everything that we're talking about with Christmas has to do with the Christmas story. And it's really baby Jesus' birthday is what we're celebrating. So let me go ahead and read the Christmas story. This will be a story you probably even share with your children when you get to be older. It'll be a story you probably never forget. Well, this is a picture or a drawing of Mary. And it says, this is Mary, and she lived in Galilee. Can you say Galilee? That was the town she lived in. She lived a long time ago. But such a wonderful thing happened to her that we still remember and thank her for what she did. So there is Mary. Now, one day an angel appeared to Mary. Do you see the angel came and appeared to Mary? Mary was doing her daily activities, and an angel came and said, "You are so blessed among women, Mary, for you shall have a son. You're going to have a baby, and you shall call the baby's name Jesus, and he shall be called the Son of God, and his kingdom shall never end." And then Mary said, "I am so glad to serve the Lord." And then the angel left. But Mary was startled. I'm sure that would be a startling thing to have an angel appear to you. But it was such an important event, and she lived a long time ago. She must have been maybe almost scared, but she was so happy. And she said, "I will do whatever I need to do to help baby Jesus be born." Well, she married a really good man, and his name was Joseph. And he was from Nazareth, and he was a carpenter. That means he liked to build things with wood, so he used a hammer and a saw, and he used maybe nails, and he measured things. So he was a builder of wood things, and that is Joseph. When Joseph had to go from Nazareth up to Bethlehem in Judea to pay his taxes in his father's town, Mary went with him. So they had to take a long trip together because they had to go up to Bethlehem to pay their taxes. And so it was a long trip, and Mary was pregnant, and she was starting to have a baby, and it was harder for her. And look how she rode on the back of a donkey. And it's not easy to ride on a donkey. It's not like driving in a car. And so they took a long trip, because back then that's how everybody paid their taxes, because the government wanted some money to operate. And so everybody was required to go and pay their taxes. Well, when they reached Bethlehem, finally, they found that it was full of travelers. Look at all the people, because everybody had to go to the same place And so the little town of Bethlehem was very full of people, and most it was like a party. They were having fun. But in this case, Joseph knew that Mary was getting close to having her baby, and she was very tired, and they needed a place to stay. And they couldn't find any place that they could stay in because every place was already full. And so when people would answer the door and Joseph would say, "Do you have any room in your inn?" And they would say, "No, we're full, full, full." The inns were crowded to the doors, and everybody turned them away. So they got to the town of Bethlehem, and there was no place to stay. Finally, one innkeeper looked over and saw Mary and saw that she was very tired, and his heart was sort of full. He thought he would try to help them out. He didn't have a place for him to stay, but he did have a stable. And in the stable, that's where the animals slept. And he said, "You can stay with the animals in the stable." And he made sure that it had some clean hay, and that would help keep them a little bit warmer. And so they stayed in a stable with animals. So Jesus was going to be born not in a real nice place, but in a stable. And so there Mary brought forth her son, and she wrapped him in swaddling clothes and laid him in a manger. So there is baby Jesus, and there is Mary, and she wrapped him in swaddling clothes. Do you know what swaddling clothes are? That's whenever you take a blanket and wrap it pretty tightly around a baby. It's like they're all in a sleeping bag, all tight, and it keeps them so they feel safe. Because it must be scary to be a brand new baby, and all of a sudden you have all this room. So swaddling clothes helps a baby feel safe and warm. And so the mom will take the blanket and wrap it around the baby and make it a little bit snug. And so it just feels cozy. And so Jesus was born, and she put him in a manger. Do you know what a manger is? It's a place normally where animals eat their food. And so they cleaned out the manger and put in fresh hay to make it sort of soft like a bed. And that's where they could lay baby Jesus when he was not being held by Mary or Joseph. And there is Joseph, and he knows that this is a very special baby. And there's Mary, and she knows this is a very special baby. This is Jesus. He was going to come to the world to help us to be happy. And this is why we celebrate Christmas. Well, there were in the same country shepherds in the field keeping watch over their flocks. And so here's some shepherds who were a little bit away from where baby Jesus had just been born. And they were watching over their sheep. And you can see them. But guess what? An angel came and appeared to them. Look at the angel came and said something very special to these good shepherds. What did they say? They said, "There's nothing to fear. I come to bring you great news of joy and happiness, which will come to all people. For a child is born this day in Bethlehem, a Savior who is Christ the Lord. And this shall be a sign to you. You shall find the baby wrapped in swaddling clothes and laying in a manger." And then suddenly the whole sky was full of angels, and they were all so excited because they knew that this was such an important time for all of us. And they were so excited. And so the shepherds now knew, because an angel told him. Here, let me show you the picture. The angel told him that Jesus had been born, and they told him where he was. And so the shepherds went to visit Mary and Joseph and baby Jesus. And look at them. They were praying because they knew, they had read the scriptures, and they knew that this for sure was baby Jesus. And they hurried to the town, they found them, and afterwards the shepherds told everyone they met about the baby Jesus. So after they left and let baby Jesus go back to sleep, they went and told everybody they could think of that they had seen baby Jesus, and baby Jesus had been born. Now, when Jesus was still a baby, 3 wise men from the east came to Jerusalem. "Where is he that is born King of the Jews?" they asked. "For we have seen his star in the east and are come to worship him." So these are the wise men, and they were further away off in the east, but the scriptures said there would be a special star in the sky. And that's why we put a star on the top of a Christmas tree to remind us that on that magical day when Jesus was born, there was a bright star in the sky, and that was going to be a sign that the baby Jesus had been born. And the wise men knew about this, and so they immediately started heading toward Jerusalem. Well, they went to a king whose name was Herod. This is a picture of King Herod. He's an important person. He's not a nice guy at all, but he's very powerful. And so they came and they talked to him, and they wanted to know where the baby Jesus was. So he called the wise men to him and asked them just when the star had appeared. And so they told him, oh, and look at that. There's a picture of the star that helped him know. Then he sent them off to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search and find the young baby Jesus. And when you have found him, come back to me and tell me about it, and that I may come and worship him also." He wasn't really going to worship him. I think he was scared that Jesus was going to potentially be the king, and he was the king, and he didn't want baby Jesus to be the king. He didn't understand, and he was just not a good person. So when they had heard the king, the wise men departed. Behold, the star which they had seen in the east went before them till it stood over the place where the child baby Jesus was. And when they saw the star, the wise men rejoiced, and they were so happy. So they left the king, and they followed the star, and it took them to the city in Bethlehem where baby Jesus was. And guess what? The 3 wise men came and visited Mary and Joseph and baby Jesus. And they brought some very important gifts. They were so excited that Jesus was born. So they were bringing presents. And that's one of the reasons we share presents. It's sort of reminding us of how much people were so grateful for baby Jesus being born. And so they brought 3 gifts that were very valuable. One was gold. Have you ever heard of gold? It's a very precious metal. And then they brought frankincense, which is a very expensive and special oil, and myrrh. And myrrh is an oil as well. And so they brought some very precious things to give to Mary and to also be worshiping baby Jesus. They knew that this was baby Jesus. So the child was called Jesus, the name given by an angel before he was born. And he grew up and he became Jesus. and he was full of grace and truth. And I just want you to know, here's a picture of baby Jesus starting to grow up. But baby Jesus came into the world and he gave us so much happiness. And it's so important that we learn about what Jesus did while he was on the earth, because he helped show us how to be happy. And I know that baby Jesus became Jesus Christ, the Savior of the world. And it's so important that we learn about baby Jesus so we can be a little bit more like him and also be very grateful for him. So that was the story of the Christmas story. And you can see baby Jesus, he's in a manger. See? And he's in his swaddling clothes. And there's Mary and there's Joseph, who was a carpenter. And they had to go to a place called Jerusalem to be able to have their baby in Bethlehem. And so you remember the wise men came. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the story about baby Jesus, and I hope you remember why we have stars on the tree and we have presents. And over on top of those speakers, those are the three wise men. They're part of a thing that we put up at Christmas to remember the gifts that were given. So I love you, and I hope you have a wonderful Christmas, and I hope you like this little story. This is from a little storybook that we've had in our family for years and years. And so I hope you enjoy that. And remember,
I love you so much.
Hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.